All right, well, once again, hello everyone. My name is DP Layton. I am a photographic artist, educator, and activist. I am the Assistant Director of Creative Careers with Arizona State University. My pronouns are he, him, his, and today we are going to be discussing things that international students can consider when looking for careers in arts, design, and performance. So, a little overview of what we're going to be going through over the next 30 or 45 minutes. We're going to start with some resources that are available to you right now. We're going to look at some of the trends that we're seeing, not just right now due to social distancing mandates, but also kind of before and looking towards the future. I'm going to give you guys some tips about how to make it in your industry. And then finally, walk through a really important part, which is your strategy for looking for jobs, applying for jobs, networking, not just having this information, but really putting it to use in a way that's meaningful for you. So all of these things are applicable to pretty much everyone, regardless of practice, age, experience, industry, anyone going into creative fields, arts, design, performance, architecture, urban planning, things like that can benefit from this. First and foremost, though, I want you to take care of your career. So often I find that students, especially artists, especially creatives, don't have these 4 important steps in place. First and foremost, I want to make sure that you are checking your ASU email and your personal email consistently. It doesn't have to be multiple times a day, but you want to make sure at least once every other day you are looking at your email, your personal email, and your ASU email for important updates, because there's a lot of new information coming around. And especially if you're applying to jobs, it's really important to be checking those emails and going through your spam folders and any other folders that these emails from employers and potential job offers and gigs might be falling into. The other thing is to make sure that you are answering phone calls, especially if you're applying to jobs. Answer phone calls even if they're from unknown numbers. Have a professional demeanor when you're answering these phone calls. If they're waking you up out of a sleep, try and wake up, rub your face, and get ready to answer the phone calls because it could be a future job. Also, make sure that you have a voicemail set up. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is when I'm looking to hire new student workers and they don't have a voicemail set up for me to leave them a message. Please record a professional voicemail. Set up your voicemail box so that people can leave you a message. Make sure that you are regularly checking your voicemail. I am really bad at doing it every day, but I make sure at least every 2 or 3 days, I'm going in and checking my voicemail, deleting ones that are useless, that are spam, and replying to voicemails that are important. And then last but not least, engage by networking with employers and other creatives. Reach out to them, and your ability to reach out to them is contingent upon the first 3 of these. Your ability to email them and get a response, your ability to give them a phone call and have them answer it, and your ability to leave them a voice message are just as important as their ability to leave you a voice message and email you and everything else. So please make sure to start by following these steps in order to take care of your career. I want to start by pointing out a lot of the resources that are available to you. So of course, first and foremost, there is Handshake. That's where we spend the majority of our time. It's where you book appointments with us. For me, you can book a creative career advising appointment through Handshake. It's called Creative Careers is the appointment type. We're taking appointments via Zoom right now. So just go into Handshake, into the Career Center, schedule an appointment for Creative Careers, and you can see my availability on there. And pretty soon you'll be able to take appointments with my career peers as well. We also have information from Career and Professional Development Services website. We also have a specific Creative Careers landing page, which actually lives in the student resource section of the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, and I'll show you that. I also am going to show you guys a little bit of the ASU Mentor Network, which can be a really great way, along with LinkedIn, to network with fellow alumni who are in creative disciplines. Of course, there's Interview Stream, which is really helpful for practicing interviews. We have a lot of new creative career interview sets on there for music education and performance, architecture and design, interior design, a lot of other different fields and industries. And then last, but certainly not least, we've got those engaging activities, student clubs and organizations, as well as signing up for different online events, email blasts, and other ways to get engaged, not just with your ASU community, but with your creative community outside of ASU. So I love QR codes, and if you are on your computer, you can use your phone to follow along with these QR codes and pull them up on your phone and make sure that you save these or email them to yourself. But I find that QR codes are a little bit easier than just typing in a link. So of course, there's Handshake. Handshake is where you're going to be going to book appointments with me. It's where you're going to look for jobs and employers. A lot of creative individuals tend to start with Handshake and learn the tools of Handshake, and also understand how those tools can be useful when they're leaving Handshake and going somewhere else. So your research with employers, the fact that all the jobs are vetted, the fact that in Handshake you can see whether or not the job has your visa or work authorization approved. All of those things can be done outside of Handshake, but Handshake surfaces it to you and displays it very clearly and easily. We of course now have the Career and Professional Development Services, which has a plethora of different things available for you. If you go into that second tab of Get Career Advice, there are a lot of different topics that you can pick and choose from, and I really highly encourage everyone to explore these. These are just as relevant to first-time freshmen as they are to alumni who've been working in the industry for 5 years. You know, everyone can benefit from some of these professional development skills. Next, we have the specific creative careers landing page. Again, this is going to be in the ASU Herberger Institute Student Services section. And that is right here. So when you are in Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, you just go to Student Life, and right under there you can see Creative Career Services. Inside this, we actually have what's called an RSS feed. This feed displays jobs from Handshake that are tailored to creative industries. So right here, we can see as an example on the landing page taken just a few days ago, we've got a position at Arts for All. We have a media and videographer position. So you can go to the Creative Careers landing page, find this drop-down feature, and see all the different positions that are on Handshake that are tagged with arts, design, performance, architecture, Herberger Institute, a lot of other different keywords we use to surface these. And you can click on that Learn More and apply right there. So it's another really wonderful tool. And we also have a number of other resources on this landing page, including, but not limited to, we've got a really long list of employers that are perfect for internships, and those are broken up between the different schools that are within Herberger Institute. So those are all organizations that may or may not be in Handshake yet, but they are all organizations that you can and probably should look into, depending on your career field, in order to look for part-time jobs and internships while you are a student. There's also other opportunities, seeing upcoming events. There are different student leadership opportunities that you can apply to be an on-campus student worker, and all that information is right here on the Creative Careers landing page. Next, we have the ASU Mentor Network, which, as you probably might have heard by now, is ASU's version of LinkedIn. The response rate I find for artists and creatives on a platform like LinkedIn is probably close to 20 or 30%. So you have to cast a wide net. You have to email a lot of people in order to get a response back. However, the ASU Mentor Network, the response rate's probably about 80 or 90%, because this is populated by alumni, students, and industry professionals and faculty and staff will all raise their hand to say, I want to mentor, I want to give back to ASU students. So they're far more likely to respond in a really timely manner and with some really good information for you. When you log into the ASU Mentor Network, you can go over to the Groups section and you can click on Arts, Design, and Performance. We have our very own group. You can join the group, see what resources we have available. Right now, we have a lot of different resources on emergency funding and grant opportunities for artists during social distancing and during COVID pandemic. So all those resources and more, as well as different events, are listed in there. And you can go on there, see all the different discussion posts going on, and post your own question to get a response. The most important feature, of course, is the Make a Connection, where you're going to be networking. So you can use that search bar to look for keywords such as production or video or music or architecture, and you can see different alumni and different people on here who've either majored in that or whose job is that right now, and you can chat and connect with them. When you click, if you see the Chat Now feature, for instance, under Carly, that means that Carly is currently online right now, and I can live chat with Carly. If it says Let's Connect under their name, that means that they're offline, but of course they've signed up for this, so they will respond to your email shortly. When you click Let's Connect, one of my favorite things about Mentor Network is how it takes the nervousness out of an icebreaker. So it provides to you almost like a Mad Libs, kind of a sample email that you could send. Now, you don't just want to click send, you want to go in and you want to personalize this, but it will give you recommendations on what to say when talking with someone new about networking, about getting career advice or choosing a major. All these are really helpful topics. And again, if you are going outside of Handshake to LinkedIn or some other source for networking and connecting with professionals, I recommend starting with Handshake and looking at these and getting a rhythm and a feel for what it's like to network. And these samples can be very helpful. Of course, LinkedIn is one of the most popular sites for networking. We have over 178,000 ASU alumni on LinkedIn. Trust me when I say filters are your friends. You can see where these alumni live, where they work. You can see what they've studied, what they do. Right here, you can see I've typed it in these keyword searches for photography, arts, design, and performance, and what they've studied and everything. And I'm still getting, as you can see here, 495 artists and photographers who I can network with. You can narrow that search down by where they live and a bunch of other things. But LinkedIn's a really great opportunity. Just remember, you're going to have to cast a little bit of a wider net to reach, to get a response rate. Last, but certainly not least and not last, Interview Stream is really helpful. You can conduct sample mock interviews. When you click Conduct an Interview, you have a lot of different interview sets available to you. For artists and creatives, my recommendation is that you conduct your own interview, that you craft a personalized interview, and you can do that by going through all the different questions and typing in keywords related to your field. So I know we have some architecture, design, and planning students on board right now. You guys can go in to Interview Stream, type in architecture, planning, CAD modeling, whatever it is you think you'd be asked in an interview, type it in there, and you can practice these interviews for when you do get a call back eventually. Then, of course, we have those student clubs and organizations. This QR code right here is going to take you to that website for ASU clubs and organizations. There are so many, so many organizations for artists within the Herberger Institute and across ASU at all of the different locations. And of course, especially right now, online. I highly recommend using these student clubs and organizations to build your network, because the students sitting in your class, The students who are around you online, these are not your competition. These are your lifelines. This is your support network. Networking with your fellow classmates, with your fellow students, becoming friends with them, becoming professional allies with them will help you tremendously when breaking into the industry for arts, design, and performance jobs. They will hear of positions that you are perfect for and vice versa. They will know people that you should talk to. They will go to events and give you information from that. And you will undoubtedly see things that will help them out. And you're all helping each other. It's not a competition. You guys are all in this together. That brings me to the next topic, which are some of the different trends in arts, design, and performance. So of course, some of the big things that are really important is to do what's called informational interviewing. Now, I want to use the raise the hand feature to see how many people on this call are familiar what informational interviewing means. All right. Don't think I'm seeing any. Okay, so I'm getting one yes, other no replies. So informational interviewing is a really big fancy word for networking, talking to people, and it's super easy to do. The reason that we call it informational interviewing is because it's you interviewing a professional, interviewing someone who you want, a position you want to have, an industry you're interested in, a faculty member you admire, anyone you can informational interview to get information. You're interviewing them not to get a job, but to get information. And there's so many different, one of the things you can get out of this is that there's so many different words for different jobs. So for instance, my background's in photography. And when I was applying to photography jobs, staff photographer is typically a position which means that you are on staff, you're a full-time staff member as a photographer. You will see though, occasionally, positions titled staff photographer when what they really mean is that they are hiring you to photograph their staff. Same name, completely different jobs. And there's another word that they like to throw around, imaging consultant, which is basically just a photographer, a staff photographer, but the HR manager doesn't really understand what that means, so they give it a different name. Photography is just one of millions of different career opportunities within arts, design, performance, and architecture. And informational interviewing can be so helpful when speaking to professionals in your industry and asking, what are some of the types of positions that I should be looking for? What are the words that people are using? And you will undoubtedly get stories just like mine of people telling you, oh, it sounds weird, but you should really look for this word because that's what people think we do. I know UX design right now is a growing industry, and there are a lot of different weird words that people are throwing out there for user interface design. Speaking to someone in that industry can really help you get a sense of what types of words that you should be looking for. Another trend in arts, design, and performance is the portfolio. Now, I get so many students who ask me, can you look at my portfolio? And my answer is yes, but I'm not an architect. Yes, but I'm not a painter. Yes, but I'm not I'm really good at photography and video. I can critique those for you. And I can certainly look at your portfolios, but when we are looking at your portfolios, we're more looking at them as an extension of your resume. That's what a portfolio really is. It's an extension of you, it's an extension of your resume, it's an extension of your skills and your experience. Whether you are a dancer and you're putting together a video of all the different performances you've been in, whether you are a painter and you're putting together a compilation of different projects you've been on, whether you're an architect or a planner and you're putting together a portfolio of proposals and designs, it's all an extension of you and your competencies. For every page of your portfolio, you should be able to speak about that project, what you did on that project, how it helped you improve as an artist, as a creative, as a professional. that portfolio needs to say something about you, and it needs to prove that you know what you're doing. When you put on your resume that you are experienced in, let's say, Photoshop, well, then your portfolio needs to prove that you have experience in Photoshop. It needs to prove that you have these skills that you claim to have. If you're doing a video reel, that video has to have components added into it that prove your resume is correct and that you learned something in your education. Another trend you will find, not just in arts, design, and performance, but everywhere else, but especially right now in our creative fields, is entry-level jobs versus expertise-level jobs. It is highly, highly unlikely that you will graduate as a college senior in your bachelor's degree and be a director. There are 20 jobs that you will undoubtedly have between college graduate and director of a major motion picture. There are 20 different jobs between graduating from college and owning your own magazine and producing your own magazine. And it's really important to think of two things, which is, what are your immediate needs versus what are your long-term goals? Where are you right now? What are your finances? What money do you need? What situation do you find yourself in? Where do you need to move? And then long-term, what do you want to be doing in 5 years or 10 years? And once you have those two questions kind of answered, then you can start seeing where those bridges are between the two and what the steps are. And again, informational interviewing and speaking with professionals in your career field, people doing what you want to do, will really help you build those bridges and figure out, what are those entry-level jobs? What experience do I need to get while I'm in school and when I'm leaving school that can help me get to the ultimate position that I want to have in 5 or 10 years? Last thing that we find as a trend in arts, design, and performance is related to your resume. So there's different types of experience. I find that artists tend to have very small resumes because they don't feel as if the jobs that they've had are related to their field. Or they haven't had that many jobs, and so there's just not a lot on their resume. Well, there's so many different types of experiences that you can have to put on your resume. Volunteering for different nonprofit organizations, volunteering your time for churches or different things like that. Class assignments are also relevant experience. Think of it, in your class, you have a client, which is your teacher. You have to work in a team setting, your classmates, and you have a deadline for that client, which is an assignment due date. All three of those components are part of working on a gig or part of a production or part of a professional experience. It's just you're in school. So make sure that if your resume is kind of small, there's a lot of different things that you can add as an experience that aren't paid working positions that people will care about. But then, of course, there are the small part-time jobs that also can and should go on your resume because that builds your professional development, and people care. If you've worked in food service, they want to know. If you've worked as a teacher's assistant, they want to know. Even though your ideal goal is being a principal at an architecture firm, working as a barista at Starbucks is a wonderful start to that in gaining some experience. So those are some of the trends that we're seeing. I next want to move on to tips for making it in the creative careers. You guys might have heard this statistic thrown around a little bit, but it is especially true for creative people, for artists and designers. 85% of jobs are secured through networking, meaning knowing people in your profession and in your industry. Now, again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the raise your hand feature, the yes or no feature. So say yes or no to this question. Networking is scary for me. Yes or no? Connecting with new people. Networking is scary for me. I'm seeing some yeses. One no, that's good. Okay. Well, whether or not, the important thing to know is that networking is important and it is totally manageable. Believe it or not, I'm very nervous and I need some help sometimes. And one of the things that really helps me, especially in the creative fields, is to remember that everyone was once where you were. Everyone you talk to who is a professional in the industry, they once were in college. They once were looking for jobs. They once were taking, small intro jobs. And my favorite thing to relate that to is we are all just two toddlers in a trench coat pretending to be an adult. Nerves don't get easier. It doesn't get any easier to talk to professionals. It's always going to be kind of awkward and weird, but it is manageable. And just remember that they are also just people. They're just sitting down with some coffee at a computer just like you. They're going throughout their professional lives pretending to know what they're doing, and very often us professionals are just scraping by. So just know that networking is totally manageable, that they were once in your shoes, and a really great place to start is by asking them, what advice do you have for me since you've been where I am? So here are some tips for networking. Communicating is networking. And here we see some of the different people that you can connect with for starters. So we've got faculty and staff, the people you're taking classes from, wonderful place to network, great place to start. They also already know who you are, so they're more likely to reply. We also talked about the ASU Mentor Network and LinkedIn's ASU alumni page. And both of those are where you can reach out to alumni. And again, they have a very similar story to yours. They graduated from the same school, so they're a little bit more likely to reply. We then, of course, have industry professionals and community. And I personally find a really great way to get connected to these people is by asking my faculty, my staff, and alumni who I should know, if they have other contacts that I should speak to. And then, of course, there are your peers, your classmates, the students who are sitting in class with you, who are making art along with you, who are in the same industry. They too are a wonderful resource because, again, we are not each other's competition. We are here to help one another, and that will be very apparent when you graduate and you're working in the field and you still have these great friends from college who are helping you out along the way. I'm often asked, well, where can I network? Networking seems like we have to be in fancy business attire, drinking tea. No, networking happens anywhere that you're able to communicate, because again, remember, networking is just communicating. It's just talking to someone. It's just saying hi. You can network at career fairs, professional mixers, alumni associations, conferences, any event or online gathering, anything like that connected to your industry, your field, are wonderful places to network and to connect. And that's when you can hear about a lot of the different jobs, new companies that are coming up in your industry that are hiring, gig work. A lot of times networking is a really great place in things like conferences. It's a really wonderful place if you're in gigs for, things like performing arts, like music or dance, a lot of great ways to get gig work there. You can also start online. We're all online right now. It's a totally easy thing to do. ASU already has the first three already set up for you. Handshake, LinkedIn, and ASU Mentor Network, wonderful place to start. And then below that are a couple other websites to take a look at. The meetup.com, Network After Work, and Toastmasters. All three of those are also wonderful places, especially for international students, to get involved. And then, of course, below that, we have our Alumni Association and the professional associations, again, depending on what type of art field you're going into, what type of design field, you can find a lot of those online. Now, I'm often asked too, what do I ask? Other than hi, my name is, and I'm interested in art, what do you ask? Well, there's a lot of different things that you can ask. You can ask about things like hiring decision. When you get someone on the phone, you can say, hey, what are some of the things that are deciding factors when hiring for a position at an architecture firm? What are they looking for? You know, when you're applying to be a video editor, what are some of the things that they're looking for on your resume? What are some things that I should have on my resume? What are some good websites to look at for jobs in my field? What sort of, you know, like we said, what sort of job titles should I be looking for? Or professional organizations do you recommend? Very often you'll find artists have 2 lists of organizations that they're part of. They have a very long list of all the free organizations that you can join, and they've got 1 or 2 organizations that they actually pay for that are worth their time. And it's wonderful to speak with them because they'll be able to tell you which of the paid subscription organizations are worth paying for. But one of the last things that you want to, the last thing you want to ask when networking, when you have someone on the phone, is, what haven't I asked? Or what else would you like to tell me? That's the very last little box down here. And it's the most important one. Because very often you won't have all of the questions that they're willing to answer, and they'll have a lot of information ready for you. Now, you want to avoid asking for a job. You want to avoid talking over or cutting anyone off, interrupting them. You want to avoid demanding anything, demanding a letter of recommendation, demanding their time, anything like that. You don't want to demand. You just want to ask and be okay with them saying no. And you don't want to ask too personal of questions. You don't want to ask anything too personal about their family, or anything too personal. You don't want to share anything too personal about yourself in the beginning. Once you are friends with them and you're developing a better connection, you might be able to go through some of these and follow up later on. But when you're first speaking to someone, these are the 4 big things for artists especially you really want to avoid. Here's a sample kind of introductory email that I wrote. This is a good example of a way to reach out to someone and say, hi, I'm wondering if you have some time for me. So I said, hi, my name's DP Layton. I'm about to graduate ASU studying photography. I was searching LinkedIn and I see that you graduated in 2012. I would like to work as a photographer when I graduate. Would you be willing to speak with me sometime about your career path? I would like to hear how you have been working since graduating and if you have any tips for a new photographer. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. That's a really great, concise way of saying hello, introducing yourself, and making a very clean ask of their time. You're asking for just a little bit of their time on the phone or email. You don't want to send too long of an introductory email, and you don't want to immediately set up like a, does Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. work for you? You want to leave it open for them. The most important thing about networking, though, is water your garden. You don't just plant a seed and walk away. You need to come back and water that garden. Once you make a connection, once you say hi, once you meet them, make sure in the next few months or so, just like you would check in with a family member or a friend, that you're checking in with them and you're saying, hi, thanks again for your time, hope you're doing well. When you see them post something online or on LinkedIn, reply to that and say, congratulations on this, or, oh, wow, that looks great. And that's a really great way to water that garden, because that makes them remember you. And if they hear of jobs, you're fresh in their mind and they're thinking about you. And if you say, hey, I liked your image, they could be like, oh, wow, DP, I actually just heard of a position opening up at this firm. I think you'd be perfect for it. That's a wonderful opportunity. So you got to make sure you're watering that garden, okay? Now, another important tip is for resumes. You need to have 3 resumes, and I know it sounds crazy, but bear with me. Your first resume, it's going to be your creative resume. It's going to be designed well. It's going to be aesthetically pleasing. It's going to be you. It's going to be branded. It's going to look fun. And it doesn't have to follow the conventional resume guidelines. Creative resumes use different type fonts, lots of color. It's all up to you. It just needs to make sure that that it looks professional. The second resume you need is a neutral resume. This is a boring resume. This is very neutral, Times New Roman, 12-point font. And the reason you need this resume is because very often a computer program will scan your resume when you are applying. So when you are applying to a position and they ask you to upload a resume, I recommend call that organization and ask if this is a scanning document, and if so, you will upload a neutral resume and you will give them a creative resume in person. And the last resume is your master resume. This is that laundry list of all the things that you do that might not relate to the specific job you're applying to. So your education, your experience, all the experiences will be on this master resume, but you're only going to use some of those when applying to specific jobs. We also talked about relevant experience, and that volunteer experiences, personal projects or projects with groups of friends, like a YouTube channel or something, and the class assignments are also relevant experiences. And last but not least, we're going to talk about making a plan that works for you. So again, we talked about think about what you want versus what you need. What's your dream job in 3 years? What are your most immediate needs right now, this month, today? And what are some of the different paths that you can see between those two? Do you need to get a job right now just to have some money while searching for other jobs? Or do you have some savings and you're going to really put all of your focus into applying for a lot of jobs? Or, what's that? Are you going to rely on networking and focus a lot of energy on networking? What do you need right now? And where do you want to go? And how do you get there can only be accomplished if you know the answer to those two questions. When you're making a plan that works for you when applying for jobs, please engage in self-care. Take care of yourself. Be healthy, get sleep, drink water, eat good nutritious food, because if your brain is not operating well, your resumes are going to look terrible. Your networking skills are going to decrease. Your attention is going to be gone. So please take care of yourself and when you're going through this process. You want to make manageable tasks for yourself, and you have to decide that. Is emailing 10 people in a day realistic? Is that something you can do? Or is it more realistic for you to only email 2 people in a day? You have to set that schedule and be okay with it moving around and changing that schedule depending. And also be okay with failure. All that failure means is that you come back to it having new knowledge. For example, I hate running. I really hate running. So when I'm out for a jog, I look forward down the street and I say, I can stop running once I get to that stop sign. Once I'm at the stop sign, I can stop finally. I can take a rest. And sometimes when I get to that stop sign, I feel, you know what, I could actually keep running for a little bit more. But if I don't tell myself that I'm going to stop at that stop sign, if I don't set that goal for myself, then the distance between me and the end of the street at the stop sign seems impossible. There's no way I could run that far. But if I give myself just that little small realistic task of getting to the stop sign, then I'm good. So let's look at a sample week that I worked with a student on recently. So this was a student and she was going into music education. And so we planned out 2 weeks for her. Day 1, look for jobs on Handshake. Don't even review them, just look for a bunch of jobs, print out those job descriptions, and look for, and we said probably about 10 to 15 jobs. And then take a break. The next day, sit back at the computer and go through all those jobs and organize them. What are you qualified for? What are you not qualified for? What due dates are coming up soon? And what are the due dates that are off a few weeks? What are your immediate needs and what are your future goals? And then once you sort them, just have a plan for what am I going to apply to tomorrow. Then day 3, I'm going to apply to at least 2 jobs. And if I get more done, great. But I'm going to take my time in crafting those applications to those jobs. Day 4, again, I'm going to apply to at least 2 more jobs. If I get more, great. But if not, that's fine. And if I only get 1, then that means that realistically, I just apply for 1 job. So then day 5, I go on LinkedIn and I network. We're going to network with 5 people, and that's the goal. Then day 6, check email, reply to any emails or voicemails that you get. And then day 7, relax. Don't even do anything. Just take time for yourself. And then again, sample 2, this is a second sample week of getting different, a different approach. So we found on week 1, applying to 2 jobs in a day was too much. So just apply to one day, 1 job. And then look for jobs one day, check your email one day. But we found, reach out to more people on LinkedIn because we can accomplish that easier. So again, these are just examples. You're going to build in time that works for you based around your class schedule, based around the types of jobs you're looking for, your familiarity with these industries. All this is going to be reliant on you and what your industry you're going into, but you really have to make sure that you're realistic with what you can do. Because again, if you don't set yourself that goal, you will sit down at a computer to look for jobs and you will be shocked and nervous and scared and won't really be able to effectively apply for these jobs. So those are my tips. I want to open up the questions to ask questions you guys might have for me. Anything about the resources we talked about?
Thanks. And I just want to say that the way we have this meeting set up, you all can actually unmute yourselves. So feel free to type questions into the chat function or to just go ahead and unmute yourselves and ask out loud.
So I see we have one that is asking, do I have any tips to avoid procrastination? Oh boy, yes, I do. I wish I could learn this lesson myself. I'm not really good at practicing this. But one of the big things for procrastination is, and I might ask you to respond to this, do you procrastinate when you make artwork for yourself and you're playing around or you're doing something fun? Probably not. It's probably fun to play that video game or to paint or to take photographs. And the thing to remember is that when you love the job you're applying for, it doesn't seem like work. It seems really exciting, actually. So once you find your calling, it kind of helps in not procrastinating that. The other thing that will help in not procrastinating is having accountability, which means having someone checking in on you. And guess who that person is? It's me. You can book an appointment for Creative Careers and set up 30 minutes and we can develop a plan together. And I will check in on you the next week to see how our plan went. And we can set up another appointment the next week or the week after, or we can email back and forth. And having someone like me check in and say, hey, did you make those updates to your resume? That can help in making sure that you're not procrastinating. And it can also help kind of incorporate it into a regular rhythm. So just like you would get up and shower and get coffee, or just like you would, make sure that you call your parents before bed or something like that. I find that making sure that I set up at least 10 minutes in my routine, to check emails, to look for jobs, that'll help. And also with the procrastination, it all seems really, really scary. But when it doesn't seem scary, when it seems fun, or when it seems easy, and you've just got all you have to do that one day is apply to one job, all you have to do is write a cover letter, write 3 paragraphs about yourself, send in your resume and your cover letter to an employer, and that's it. That's super easy to do. And it'll help you not procrastinate rather than thinking, I have to apply to 50 jobs today. That's crazy. So I hope that answered your question about procrastination. Do we have any other tips or any other questions?
Hi. Oh, somebody wrote first. Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Michelle, and I just graduated from the doctoral degree in orchestral conducting. And as you know, orchestras this year are gonna have, a rough time trying to. Yeah, I know. Trying to get together. And I was a finalist for a position, but then everything vanished with the pandemic. And so I'm just trying to expand. Trying to get a job until I can reapply for these positions and until we can gather in more than 15 people groups. But it's been hard to, I guess, self-assess what are my skills and what other types of jobs I could do, knowing that it could be not only related to music, it could be like social media or digital marketing and stuff like that. So I was wondering if you have any tips to, I guess, analyze myself and my skills and which kind of job.
Branching out of your niche comfort zone. Yes, and thank you for addressing that. Yes, unfortunately, performance art right now is really hurting. Opera, orchestra, and a lot of those things are taking a dip. There will be a boom. There's going to be a lot of productions happening next year. We're all going to be, really itching to go to the theater, itching to go to the opera. So trust that those will come. But for any artist in branching out, first, please make an appointment with me because we can go into your resume and look for key things in your work experience and in your education that could really help you. But in general, my recommendation would be if you want to stick with art and performance and design, go online and use different keywords. Go onto Google and look for arts jobs and just go through the list and see if anything interests you. See if social media interests you. See if there's a teaching position that might interest you. Just go online and look for different things and just see what kind of feels right, and then go down the rabbit hole of looking into that, what requirements there are to those jobs and everything. And then another great resource that we talked about today is networking. Reach out to other conductors, other music performers, and other people in your industry and ask that question. Say, hey, right now we're experiencing a lull. What are you doing right now? Right? We actually just had a webinar earlier today for arts designers and performance, and we had one opera conductor and one orchestral performer. And one of the things we asked them is, what are you doing right now when you're not on stage? And they had really great resources for things like that. So reaching out to professionals in your industry and asking them what they recommend can be really helpful.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Do we have any other questions from participants? Well, if that's it, thank you all very much. In the chat, I didn't put it in the PowerPoint. I am putting my email in the chat. If you can't, for some reason, find an appointment on Handshake that works for you, or if you have some specific questions that I didn't get to today that you think of later, please email me. I'd love to connect with you and get to know you more and help you with your career goals. Again, my name is DP Layton. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the Assistant Director for Creative Careers. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to hearing from you all very soon.
Thanks so much, DP. Everyone have a great rest of your day.